In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 steps that you can implement in your day-to-day life that can simply help you create anything that you wish for in your life. So those of you that don't know, about exactly two months ago, a little over 2 months ago, I was walking down the supermarket and I dropped and had a seizure. And, waking up the next day, the days after that, I thought that was the worst of it. And what I did not realize is that really the following 2 months, what's going to be the worst of it. And because I started, a trauma happened in my life. And oftentimes what we do understand is that when a traumatic event happens, just because everything is okay logically, emotionally, your nervous system has simply been impacted very heavily. And depends on how big the trauma is. The bigger impact or less of an impact happens to your nervous system. And when your nervous system is impacted, it doesn't just kind of like, one day it's impacted and the next day everything is fine, because that's what I thought was going to happen. It actually doesn't work that way. It takes a long time, not a long time, but it takes a while for it to kind of get back to equilibrium, right? I remember when about 3 weeks after my seizure, I went to the doctor. Doctor finally cleared me. He said, everything's fine, go back to normal life. And I thought I was going to wake up the next morning and be absolutely fine. That same day, I felt relieved. I wasn't anxious anymore. I wasn't feeling, like tired and achy and like, that feeling in my stomach. But then I woke up the next morning and those crazy thoughts were happening in my head again. And that's what put me on a journey of simply healing and connecting to myself, learning about all this stuff. So this is what I want to share with you guys in this video. So something that is very important for all of us to understand is that what happens when you have a traumatic event, or when you're trying to do something in your life, you're trying to start a business, you want to go to school and become a doctor, a lawyer, you want to ask a girl or a guy out, you want to, take your kids to somewhere, you want to go on an adventure that you've never done before. What happens is fear begins in ourselves, right? And you start fearing something, right? And this is literally, there are 2 emotions in our lives that hold people back. They're fear and anger. And fear is the biggest one. And in my case, that was really the thing. It wasn't anger, it was fear. What happens is when you are afraid, thoughts happen in your mind. And this is where the fear even originates. It originates from a thought. I want to go skydiving. The first thought that comes to your mind is, what if the parachute doesn't open? And then the next thought is, well, then I'm gonna die. What if the parachute opens, but of a bird, like I've thought about this a million times, a bird is flying by and just comes and punctures the parachute. What if, whatever it is, right? What if I have a heart attack because the drop? What if I get so anxious that I can't even jump off the plane? What if this, what if that, right? And then what happens is one thought goes to another, goes to another, goes to another. And all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, you're so anxious, you're so afraid, you're so paralyzed that you just simply talk yourself out of it. But you're not going to just get away with talking yourself out of it emotionally. You have to make it logical for your brain. So you're going to start coming up with stupid excuses like, oh, well, it's too expensive. Oh, I'm too old, or I'm too young. Or it's, you start like researching stuff, and then you start finding some like crazy stats that like one case out of like 10,000 million cases that something happened, or you see yourself getting into the rabbit hole of things, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in this place that you just didn't even know how you got there, right? But the thing is, what I learned, and this is kind of why I was getting anxious, because I thought I was a healthy human being. I worked out 6 days a week. I was, I went to the gym, I ate healthy and everything, and bam, that happened. So to me, it was like, so does that mean I can't drink? I can't smoke? Wait, hold on. So I shouldn't be doing this. Is this healthy? Is that healthy? Everything that I was putting in my mouth, I was like very stressed about it. Sleeping, I was stressed about sleeping. Am I sleeping enough? Am I not sleeping enough? I wasn't even sleeping at all. And then when I didn't sleep, I would get more anxious, because sleep deprivation could actually lead to anxiety and lead to seizures later, and if it actually happens over pretty long periods of time. And all that was just building up. And what was happening is I was taking a single thought, and then just exploding it into these massive stories. And because that has never happened to me in my life, like health crisis, it was taking a huge toll on my nervous system. And then I would start getting shaky, or I start getting like lightheaded, and I want to faint. And then I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to have another seizure. And then all that blows up, right? And I would go into a panic attack, and I had never had a panic attack, and I'm all shivering, and I'm like, oh my God, is this like, what is it? Is that a seizure? And I started researching, and I started realizing that there are seizures that happen to you while you're awake. You don't necessarily need to pass out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having another seizure, you know? And it was just getting blown out of proportion, right? But the 3 steps, and I want to kind of introduce to you, the very first step is to realize the stories and kind of nip it in the butt before it even starts and becomes something. So the very first thing that you want to do is realize the story, what you're doing to yourself, and that it is starting to become something, right? For instance, yesterday, my wife has had COVID for about a week now. And so she's stuck in the room. I'm literally not letting her do anything. And she's been wanting to like take the dog out and just play with her and stuff like that, because she's kind of like getting down on herself, and she doesn't want to get me sick and all that. And because she had gone traveling, and then she came back, she's like, oh my God, I went and got sick. And I'm like, babe, it is what it is. Like, we'll deal with it. So she said, I want to take the dog out. And I said, babe, don't take the dog out, because if you touch the dog, even if you're wearing gloves, I don't want you to getting something on the dog, and then I'm touching the dog, and I don't want to get sick, right? So anyways, I told her, you know what? That's fine. You go down first, and I'm going to take the dog and then bring it downstairs. I didn't really explain what I was saying, and I don't think she heard me. So she took the dog and she went downstairs. And I was like, I just said, go down by yourself, and I'm going to bring the dog, and we can walk together. You can kind of walk a little bit of distance from us. And then my mind immediately went into like, she doesn't care about me. She just cares about herself. That's so selfish. Like, what if she got sick? What if she got the dog sick? What if the dog got me sick? Like, it's not my fault that you got sick. You went out traveling with your family, having a good time, and I'm here taking care of the dog. And all of this, literally like 2 minutes into it, I'm like, whoa. And I was like getting fired up, and I was like getting angry, and I'm like, what the fuck, you know? And I was just like literally about to like FaceTime her and like argue with her. And I was ready for her to come home so we can argue, right? So just think about last time this happened to you, or next time something like that happens to you, and how you blow stories and ideas out of proportion. So again, the first example I shared with you was fear. The second example I shared with you was anger. And those two are literally humankind's worst enemies, fear and anger. Because when those happen, we get paralyzed and we blow stories out of proportion. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to simply wake up to the stories and then just simply stop them, right? So to me, I just literally stopped. I'm like, whoa, where did I just go right now? I thanked my mind for bringing those thoughts to me. And I said, hey, thank you. I called it Jay. It's got a name. I said, hey, Jay, thank you very much for those thoughts. But you know what? It's okay. She's been sick. She's been stuck in the room for a week. She just wants to get out a little bit, walk. It is what it is. When the dog comes, I'll grab she has like baby wipes. I'll wipe the dog in case if there are germs or whatever. She's wearing a mask, wearing gloves. It's fine, you know? And I'll put the dog outside in the sun for like an hour. So that way, you know, all the germs die out, you know, I'll be fine. If I get sick, it is what it is. Not the end of the world. I'm not going to die, right? I've gotten COVID before, whatever, right? And bam, all that anger and all that fear just simply went away, right? So the very first thing is waking up to the stories. Number two, you want to change the story, right? And this is kind of the second thing that I did is waking up to the stories and then changing the stories, right? Being able to add a positive thing, because understand that our minds are not good at focusing at two different things. They're only good at focusing at one thing, either the problem or the solution. So in the beginning, when I was only focused on the problem, I just simply got angry, I got fired up, and I was ready to attack. If she had walked in through that door that second, I would have just like blown up and gotten into an argument with her, right? And we would have probably been mad at each other for no damn reason. It literally took me 30 seconds to change that story into something else and then just convince it, because our conscious brain needs logic. Our subconscious brain is the emotional. Our conscious brain needs logic. So say you want to start a business and your thoughts are like, well, what if I'll lose my money? What if I don't know how to do it? What if I launch something and it doesn't work? What if I need employees and I've never managed employees and then I hire them and then they don't turn out to be good employees and then they steal from me? And then what if I get sued? What if something happens? What if this? And all of a sudden you're like, I can't even breathe. And like 20 minutes into it, they're like, no, you know what? Better just not start a business. Instead, say, okay, so these are the things. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the problems that could potentially happen? Okay, I could lose the money. I could do this. I could do that. I could do that. Okay, if I lose the money, here's how I'm going to battle it. If I hire an employee that's stealing from me, I can just simply fire them. If I don't know what I'm doing, I can join a program or take a course or a coach or something like that. So I don't make, I avoid making mistakes, or at least make smaller mistakes. If I don't have money, okay, well, I can borrow money, or I can simply go partner with someone who has money, and then build that logic. So that way now your logical, your conscious mind simply has that logic that it can refer back to, right? And so that's very important for you guys to understand, is first, becoming aware of the stories, changing the stories. And the third thing is practicing and creating a daily routine and daily habits. Because one thing that I've realized is that when you create something into a routine, when you do something, routinely for 21 days, it becomes a habit that you don't even have to think about. Because right now I'm telling you this stuff, and maybe next time that you face such problem, maybe you realize you're like, holy shit, but wait, what did Bashar say? Now what did I do? And you have to come back to this video and watch it and pause and stuff like that. But then if you practice this stuff every day, like right now, every single morning, my morning routine, and I'll make a video about this, every single morning when I wake up, I simply state 10 things that I'm grateful for, because gratitude is the only feeling that simply cannot exist with another feeling, right? Feeling of fear, feeling of anger is what paralyzes people, is what simply creates anxiety, creates stress. But the cure is gratitude, is love, right? And when you are grateful for things, when you become grateful for things, for anything, literally anything, that takes over fear, and fear and gratitude together cannot exist. Anger and gratitude together cannot exist. So what I do every single morning is I simply list 10 things that I'm grateful for, and I put myself, my emotional state, my physiology into that state. I think about, so for instance, I talk about, the very first time I launched a product on Amazon that was successful, and my very first sale. What was that moment, that proud moment that I felt? How did I feel? And I just see it right now. I'm thinking about it, I'm getting emotional. I'm getting goosebumps into my body. And I go back and I live that moment again as if it is happening to me right now, as if I'm living that moment right now. And I just simply go back to it and just feel the emotions. I mean, this whole time, I'm just like getting emotional right now. I'm like, my body is all getting numb and it's feeling so amazing. My heart is like expanding and I'm breathing, deeper, and my shoulders are like going down. And so think about a moment in your life that you were grateful for. Think about a moment in your life that you were proud of. They did something, you helped someone, you accomplished something in your life, and just think about that and be grateful for that moment. And all of a sudden, what's going to happen is your physiology is going to change. Because again, emotions are triggered by thoughts, right? And if you can simply replace a thought and change your focus from being angry, being mad, being sad, being fearful, into gratitude, into love, into being proud of something, you're going to feel that emotion. And something that I've mentioned in previous videos is that every emotion only lasts for 90 seconds. So if a thought triggers an emotion, as long as another thought does not trigger and you become aware of it, which is number one, becoming aware of it, that emotion is going to go away after 90 seconds. And then you replace it with gratitude. You replace it with a moment that you feel grateful. And you just think about that moment. What am I grateful for? Lord, I am grateful for this thing, or whoever you pray to, universe, God, Buddha, whatever it is that you pray for, higher power, energy, universe, whatever it is, right? And be grateful for that thing, for that moment. Be proud of that moment. And again, live that moment as it is happening right now, right? As if you are living it right now. And so 3 things, again, just to recap. Number 1, waking up to the stories, realizing that the thing that is actually happening. Number 2, flipping the stories and changing the stories and simply focusing on the positive and creating a logical sequence, so that way your conscious mind can absorb and understand. And number 3, creating a habit, creating a routine that after 21 days, it is said, research shows that a routine done over 21 days at least becomes a habit. And once things become a habit, it's just like riding a bicycle. You learn it once, and if you don't ride a bicycle for 10 years, you can go back and then maybe mess around a couple times and boom, you're on the bicycle again, right? Hope this video found you well. If you did, do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button. Also, drop your comments in the comment section. Maybe share this video with someone that you believe could benefit from it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.